You looking for games? Oh yeah, dude, we got games at Land, the store with a name so cool we can't even say it on TV. Come get some sweet deals. Trade in your old boring games for cool new ones. Anything's possible at Land in the Voorhees Memorial Shopping Center on the other side of Caldor at the old Tats and Vape Shop.
Hey Mike, it looks like somebody just traded in Turtles 2. Isn't this the best Turtles game on NES?
Well, do you think it is?
I don't know. I mean, I kind of like the third one. The first one's really different, but, you know, everybody always says this is the best, right?
Yeah, no. I liked this game a lot when I was a kid because I was dumb, and I'm just like, oh, I want to mash the button over and over. But this game actually, if you're gonna play a game like that, you play the Manhattan Project or play Turtles in Time. But this one goes on too damn long. Like Turtles in Time has a lot of enemy variety, or better than this. This is 90% you're fighting foot soldiers. They add in extra levels, which people will defend this game and be like, oh, but they added the extra levels. Yeah, it makes it even longer than it already is too long because all you're doing is hitting foot soldiers. If you want to play a good Ninja Turtle game, I got one for you. The original game.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, and you might think, Mike, isn't that the game that the AVGN said was bad? Yeah, well, let me tell you, I was around for that back then, and there's some good points in that video, but overall, this game is phenomenal.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
I don't think there's any good NES Turtles game, to be honest. I don't like any of them.
Really?
I think I least like this one because it just looks so desolate. Everything's gray. The graphics are always flickering in and out all the time. Like, I just don't like it. I don't like the regular NES Turtles.
What about Manhattan Project?
I don't like it. You
don't like it?
No,
the Turtles go to the beach in the beginning.
It looks cool, but like I remember my first time playing it, and I was like, I don't think that they got good until Turtles in Time. I think that's the first good, like, console Ninja Turtle game. I don't think anything else was good. Arcade was fun, but this is like a bad imitation of the arcade game.
So I have one problem with Turtles Arcade, and one problem alone. This game is absolutely, utterly unplayable if you're not playing it with a friend.
Right.
It would be like the saddest day of my life if I was just sitting by myself playing the NES Turtles 2 arcade, like killing foot soldiers, like it's just not fun without someone else.
If you're playing any beat 'em up, like you're playing Turtles in Time, let's say, or Simpsons arcade game, if you're sitting at home and you're playing Turtles in Time on the Super Nintendo by yourself, like you said, it's just a sad situation.
Yeah, right?
But you're in the arcade, it's exciting. You got your 4 friends. You got people behind you, you know, it might be little kids shouting at the screen, oh my God, there's Raphael, whatever. That's a more exciting environment, and the way those games were intended to be played, then it's pretty fun. But we're talking about a console experience. You just brought this in. This game gives a much better single-player experience because it's got strategy and it has depth.
Yeah, I mean, it's a platformer game. You know, you jump. It's not a beat 'em up. But it also has some like strategy elements, like managing the different turtles. They all have their own health bars, all of that. You have to navigate the map. There's different power-ups you can get.
Now, you were saying you had played a little bit of this one, right?
I've only played like, you know, like it was the game that like everyone had it for the NES. Like you had Mario and you had that. Those were like the 2 games everybody had. And I remember going to a friend's house, and he's like, hey, I got Ninja Turtles, and we were so excited to play it, and none of us could beat. Like, the first thing that happened was we get run over by the car.
Yeah.
The first thing. Then you know, so you're already down 1 turtle. Then you get into the sewer, and there's a million things flying at you at once. The only 2 of the turtles are good. Like, Donatello and Leonardo. Michelangelo, who I want to play as, sucks because his weapon is lame. Raphael's weapon sucks because it has no range at all. Like, I just feel like it's like, if you play this or you play Turtles in Time and all those, you can pick any turtle and still, you know, they're more or less the same. You know, Donatello and Leonardo still have a little more reach, but Michelangelo, you could easily play as him and it's the same thing as everybody else. With that, it's like I just get killed. There's a million things flying at me. I just don't have a fun time playing it.
Well, I've got some news for you. So you're talking about Michelangelo sucking, right? Mm-hmm. Michelangelo, actually, there are certain enemies, certain guys you can fight where he'll kill one enemy in one hit, where there might be another enemy where you have to hit him like 100 times or whatever, 5 times, 6 times before the enemy will die. Now, maybe you switch to Raphael and he'll kill something instantly where Leonardo will take several hits. Mm-hmm. So actually, all the turtles are different and have different power abilities. What makes it difficult is you have to remember that. You have to know that, let's say, the little fire guy, if you use Donatello, he might die in one hit or something. I forget which guy's which. You know, and then if you switch to Michelangelo, he might suck. Okay. But you use Michelangelo on a flying thing or something, he might be great. So you have to figure out and remember which enemy actually kills what.
Yeah. I didn't know there was any real difference other than their weapons. I didn't know that, like, I didn't even really know that there were sub-weapons. Like, I feel like I never got that far into the game enough where I probably have never played it for more than 10 minutes at a time.
Well, the sub-weapons, since you bring those up, are really, really important in the game because actually one of the biggest things you can do if you're playing the game normally is get the weapon. It's called a scroll. Mm-hmm. And the scroll, you use it on any enemy. It's the strongest weapon in the game. The first time I played it, I didn't know about it. The first time I played this game, I got it with my mom at Toys R Us. We get the game, we get in the car, and on the way home I'm looking at the instruction booklet, and there's a little character in there that looks like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and he's got like chainsaw and stuff, and I'm looking at that, I'm like, oh my god, it's like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre with a chainsaw, and my mom is like, I don't think I'm gonna let you play that game, and I was like really upset, and she's like, just like, you can play it. Yeah. She's just like, she gave up on it like really quickly, she's just like, whatever. So I went home and I played it, and I got really, that moment might have made me want to play it more, because I thought that I wasn't going to get to play it, and then she's like, fine. I'm like, thank God. And then I played the shit out of it. Yeah, so the sub-weapons, there's multiple ones. There's a boomerang that you can get, which you throw it, it comes back, and you can continually, you know, unlike in Castlevania, where you use like the boomerang, you just kind of like waste them. In this, it works more like it should work. You use the boomerang, it comes back, you can continually use it as long as you catch it. Okay. There's little shurikens you can use, where, let's say, again, you're like, Michelangelo sucks. Let's say Michelangelo's sucking, and he's hitting this enemy 10 times, and he's not dying. But if you have the sub-weapon, you might only have to throw the shuriken once. The dude's dead.
It's dead. Okay.
One of the things that really surprised me about the game when I was a kid, I just rented it from the grocery store or whatever. You know, I never owned it until much, much later. But I rented it like multiple times. Okay. I was always doing that. One of the things that surprised me was you get to that first Rocksteady fight, and you switch to Donatello, and you can get on top, and you can hit him down. Everyone knows that. Mm-hmm. But throughout the game, there's tons of places where you're like, oh, I want to be Donatello to hit up, or I want to be Raphael to get over here. And, like, I can't think of another game that really does that until, like, Little Samson or...
You just mentioned the Rocksteady fight. Yeah. And everybody knows about, or most everybody knows about, the little trick where you use the bow and you hit down. Going back to that nerd video... One of the big complaints in it, or one of the complaints, is that, you know, he thinks it's bullcrap because if, which makes sense, but if Donatello's hitting down with the bow, and the trick is, you know, Rocksteady is like down, wouldn't it make more sense if Rocksteady is standing up? That's when the bow would hit his head. That's the complaint in the video. Right. But the thing is, that's a glitch, like trick thing that you learn. When you're actually fighting that fight, you're just supposed to be down on the ground fighting it. Like if you're a normal kid, you've never played the game before, you're just gonna fight them like normally. Mm-hmm. You know, that special trick that you might have learned in Nintendo Power or on the school bus or something, like that's just, it's not something to complain about. That's like a trick that you learn. Mm-hmm. So that's like a very invalid complaint.
And there's a lot of things in the game where there's a trick or something you have to learn or a technique that you need to know to actually progress through it.
Yeah. I want to say one more thing about Bebop and Rocksteady. They're from the cartoon. Another thing is, like, you might say, well, you know, Krang isn't in the game and all that stuff. Well, sure, there are things that were in the cartoon, like Irma or whatever, Vern Thompson, that aren't in the game. But there's a lot of things that are in the game. For example, in the game, the turtles have the colored masks.
Yeah.
You look at the front of the thing, they have the red mask, like from the comic book.
Yeah.
This game is a hybrid between the comics and the show because they didn't want to just disclude one of the audiences. If it was all the comics, all the kids who played the game would be like, where's Bebop and Rocksteady? Or vice versa, all the fans that were just into the comics, they'd be like, well, there's nothing from the comics in here. So they were trying to sell as many copies as they could, so they wanted to get everybody into it.
I didn't know that too when I first, my friend like had it, and I was like, why are they all Raphael? Like, they mixed up on the cover, like, you know, and it's because I didn't know about the comic. The cartoon was the first thing that introduced me. That's why I was so excited, because Ninja Turtles, you know, any kid that was you know, if you were a kid in, you know, the late 80s to early 90s, Ninja Turtles was the shit up until probably Power Rangers came out.
Yeah, there was a good like 5 or 6 years where everything was ninja and the Ninja Turtles were at the center of it. And I think one of the things that really made Turtles so big then versus now, it's more of a pure kids thing, is the fact that you had the comic that was more for like teens and like older kids, and then you had the show that was for the really young kids, but the older kids could still kind of watch it. So it was like this moment where all kids had Ninja Turtles to look forward to. Whereas now it seems like the shows are more targeted towards like just real little kids, and teens are kind of not included in it.
It's for people who want to show their kids Ninja Turtles. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it's for the kids now that like the parents go, oh, I grew up with this. Like, now you can like enjoy it, and something that you know is kind of safe. It's not something that you're gonna have to worry about being too violent or anything. It's enough comedy.
I showed my kids the new Turtles game, the new beat 'em up game that's at like Dave and Buster's and stuff, and they're like, yeah, Dad, that's cool.
Yeah, because now it's like for older.
Whatever.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But you know what? With really, really little kids, I think that like really little kids like the newer Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
But your kids are, you know, not like super little anymore, right?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, my son has them, but it's not his like.
he's not, yeah, not into it. But I'm sure there are kids that are into it. I see the toys like all over the place. But so you were playing the game before this, and you told me that you had made it up to the.
I couldn't get past the dam. Not even to the dam. I was in the first level of the dam. I couldn't get past that jump.
That jump. So that jump, the trouble you were having, so you were trying to stand on the edge of the platform and jump over. You'd hit your head and fall down. So, you know, through playing the game, you learn if you play it, you know, a few times, and that's like any game. You know, the first time you play Super Mario Brothers, you're not an expert on it.
No,
you know, you don't know what you're doing, but then you learn like any game. So this is another thing that you have to learn is, you know, you have to like kind of like have a little bit of momentum. So you got to walk to make that jump. If you're not walking, you're probably not gonna make that jump. And that's just one of the little things that you learn the more and more you play it.
And I think that's one of the things that, you know, it makes this Turtles game better than like just playing the beat 'em up game, but it also makes it more challenging. You're not getting through that dam without doing it a few times and learning where the bombs are.
No.
The time is hard. It's a very tight time.
It's a game that requires not only knowledge, but, you know, it has some strategy, but it also requires like hand-eye coordination, fast reflexes. You need all your wits about you, as it probably says on the back of the box or some shit, to get through the game.
I mean, we're in a different time too now, where at this point, when this game came out, there wasn't hundreds or thousands of video games that you could buy. Nowadays, with whether you're a video game collector and you collect Nintendo or you have games
it's unlimited.
now,
you can never play them all.
You have like, I mean, for PlayStation 4, I have like over 10 games, and then you know you play those games. But like when I was a kid, for my Sega, I had like 5 or 6, and that's how much I had the entire time. And I would rent other games here and there, but you played a game, even if it was crappy and you hated it, you played that game when you didn't feel like playing anything else, and you would just learn and learn and learn. Nowadays, when you have, I mean, look at all this. Like, you're going to pop a game in, if you don't like it in the first 5 minutes, you're going to pop another game in and that you do like.
You know, I think it's crazy, like, you know, you look at Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles today, and you think about how many games have done this, like, adventure formula better or easier or whatever. But imagine if you have Turtles, and then the other games you own are Super Mario Brothers, like, Gradius and like Kung Fu. Well, compared to Kung Fu, this game's Skyrim.
I mean, Kung Fu is super basic. And that's the thing. I mean, Nintendo was the first time where games were.
I could also sit here and defend Kung Fu.
I mean,
I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying
Ninja Turtles is definitely better.
Ninja Turtles, you got characters.
Here's the thing about Kung Fu, though. The thing about Kung Fu is back then games were about high score and how long. You're just. Think of Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
You're trying to see how many loops you can go through that game.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not just, you know, it's not that simple.
By the way, nothing against Kung Fu. I just want to put that
what
out there.
What do you got?
I got nothing against Kung Fu. But what I'm saying is, like, with Turtles, you're like, I'm worried about my health and my power-ups and how do I get through this level and how do I do that?
It's like, I don't know, this game is something that I want to like, but I guess I just don't, as someone who only played it for a little bit, like, I mean, I don't know about the strategies that go into it. Maybe we should just play it for a minute and see. Maybe you'll change my mind.
Well, maybe I can change your mind.
So after all that, all the cool stuff with the game, you really don't like Turtles?
I mean, after seeing it being played, I guess. And before this, I mean, honestly, when I was coming in, all my notes were negative. That I had.
You did say that you like the music.
That's true. The music is great, and it is very like memorable, and it's some of the best NES music. It's like the songs in the sewer when you hit it, and it's like the like that. It's in your head, and it's something I'll always remember, even when I was a kid. But before this, I mean, I didn't want to play, like, I was like, oh my god, NES Ninja Turtles, I hate this game, it's so hard.
So you were saying you like the graphics, you like the music, but it was the gameplay that was your problem.
It was just, but seeing it and understanding, like what you were saying, where Raphael kills certain enemies, they all have different strengths. They actually, like, I thought the only difference was their weapon and the reach. That's all I thought.
Yeah, I was kind of in the same boat as you, where I was like, Turtles, it was fun as a kid and stuff, but it doesn't really have a lot of depth. But when Mike showed me some of the different gameplay things, it kind of transformed me in the same way that you showing me Jekyll and Hyde made me kind of appreciate it a little more. But Turtles is better than that.
Oh my god! Well, I don't think Jekyll and Hyde is a good game. I just think it's interesting. But let's not get on that topic. Yeah. So some of the other things about this game, the sewer jump. Everybody hates the sewer jump, where it's the water. You can fall in the water. If you hit your head on the thing, you're not going to make it. So there's a specific way that you have to do it. And what they were doing at that part of the game, it's really not that far into the game that happens, because there's a lot after that. There's an airport, and there's
almost a halfway point.
It's about a halfway point. So at that point, it's like a tutorial like they do now with games, where they show you something and you apply it later on to the harder levels. So that part is teaching you, if you're going to make this jump, if you tap the button, there's just a little jump you can do. And if you hold the button down, you can jump really high. So this is an area where you got to use the tap jump. So you do the tap jump, and you can make the jump without hitting your head, and that's how you get over it. And then another famous thing is you can just walk over it. That moment, that part, I've talked about before. You can just jump up there, but this is another moment where you get to that part, and you realize once you learn that you can just walk over it. That's another thing that they're teaching. They're saying, hey, yeah, you can just walk over it. And the way they even design it, where there's the platforms like this, and then there's the two platforms above it, they're forcing you to learn.
Yeah.
Because you can't jump. So they're forcing you to learn that you have to walk across that. So later in the games, when you're down lower in the sewers, and there's all these parts where there's a stone, there's a stone, there's a stone, there's a stone, there's an empty, there's a stone, there's an empty, whatever, all that. It teaches you can just walk across that whole thing. You're going to need those skills for later in the game.
And, all these points in time where you're mentioning where they teach you are very low risk. Like, if you miss the sewer jump, it's not like your character dies.
You go in the water.
You just go in the water, and then you have to redo the section. In the part where you could just walk over it, granted, the enemies respawn and everything, but you don't die for not walking over it.
Also, that place there's a bunch of pizza in that place. That's actually a good place to get pizza back. Speaking of the pizza, here's another thing I wanted to bring up. So you were having trouble in that area. You said there a million enemies would attack you and you die. So in some of those areas, again, you know, if you use the sub weapons, if you're using the right turtles, those enemies aren't as hard. And then on top of that, if you go in and out of a sewer when you see a pizza, or in and out of a building when you see a pizza, the pizza will reappear. So you can fill up your turtles' health again, making the whole game like a lot easier.
And I didn't know that until you showed me too. Like another thing that was like where you were doing it, where you have to kind of take your time. You can't just walk forward and just keep slashing. You have to like ease forward. And that's something I guess I never really...
You can't rush through
in a lot of NES games, it's all about... Ninja Gaiden is about always moving forward. And you know, you got to know what's like coming at you.
Maybe if you're a speedrunner, you're doing that kind of stuff. But a normal person, you got to kind of take it slow.
Yeah, you have to like... You have to know what's coming at you. But with Ninja Gaiden, you get punished for moving backwards, as opposed to Ninja Turtles where it doesn't. It actually punishes you for just charging forward.
Yeah, if you look at Ninja Turtles, the way that they spawn enemies on the screen is there's a certain position where the character gets to, then the enemies are created and they come at you. So if you could kind of use the jump, because it is a really floaty jump when you hold it down, you can kind of like tease the enemies to come at you, and then you can kill them before you're making a jump.
I always say you trigger the screen out to kind of get them to come over. I remember what the other biggest part, probably what I have heard from every single person I think that I've ever played this game or have talked to this game about. They say, "Oh, I got to the part with the dam and I couldn't get any further." And they're actually talking about the part where you go into the water and there's all the
bombs.
the plants, the electric plants and all that. It's really the electric plant thing that everybody's like, I couldn't get through that little electric plant thing. So with that. I know that a lot of people, first of all, don't even realize that you can switch the turtles. I mean, I know you guys know that, but a lot of people, that's first thing. So if you're switching turtles, you're getting a lot more health to get through it. Before you get to that area, there is a pizza. If you keep going back into that building, you can refill all your health to the maximum level. And another thing, that area is timed. So if you know and learn the right way to go, you can get through it a lot quicker than you otherwise would. There's other things like the little pieces of electricity that come down. You can't be like kind of half playing and not really caring. As soon as the fraction that thing goes away, you're tapping through it. Like you got to really be trying, or you're gonna die.
You have to be deliberate with it. You have to really be careful.
You have to really be careful.
I'm curious. You know, I haven't read much of the comics. I'm curious. There's 2 points in the game that I think could probably be comic issues. And the first one is the dam, you know, because I don't remember that happening in the cartoon. And then the second one is when they're on the airfield and they're coming through at night. Like it seems like turtles in an airfield at night.
It might be.
Would be like a comic situation.
I can't pick out a lot of the comics. I've read some of the comics, but not a lot.
Yeah.
There might be some of the stuff like that, but I would imagine that they must have taken some of the things. So maybe some of the things like the firemen and the little enemies and stuff like that. You had mentioned the little walker guy going across the ground and saying, "Oh, is that supposed to be like Krang or something?" The thing is like Krang and all that. The Technodrome's in the game.
Yeah.
So that world exists in this game. So it could be, I mean, the Mauser is one of the bosses in the game. So these little things walking around, they're just like Dimension X things. They're all this shit that came out of Dimension X. You wonder, oh, what is that fireman? What is that bird flying around? It's shit that Krang sent from Dimension X, even though he's not in the game. Shredder's in the game. They're sending all this shit out, and they're like, fuck you, Turtles. You're going to die. Here's all this shit from Dimension X. Deal with it. You know?
No, that's cool.
I think the thing is, I mean, this game, what a lot of the complaints are, the respawning enemies, things like that, those are all features that are in games that are considered to be great. Like Mega Man, for instance, is horrible with respawning enemies. The second you step off screen and go back in, whatever giant thing you just
even like
killed is
Mega Man
there.
2 does that.
Yeah, it's like, it's a problem. And then, but I think the problem with this game is it's not bad, it's hard. And a lot of people look at games, Ninja Gaiden, Contra, Castlevania, Mega Man, those are all really hard games, but they're considered to be classics, and this one is just kind of shit on, but it's just a hard game that you need to learn.
I think there are, you know, all that said, I think there are some legitimate bad things about the game. If I'm going to point out something I actually think is bad, I think that when you're in the turtle van, you get in the turtle van, that has the same energy meter as the turtle. that's a little bit stupid.
Yeah.
But you know, that's a pretty minor nitpick.
I think
you know?
that the a lot of the problems I have are actually with the overworld.
Yeah.
I think that the Foot Clan roller vehicles just killing a turtle
the
outright.
second, especially you don't even know what happened to you most of the time.
Yeah.
The first time you play the game, I don't know how many people, but it has to be
walk
almost
up.
every single person that's played the game. The second you get up to it, it just kills you. The second you power the game
Here's
on.
the thing about that, though. Even if, you know, one of the rollers kills you or you just die in some stupid way, you can get the turtles back.
Yeah.
If you play the game enough, you learn the different areas. There's a building you go into, there's an area you go into, and you can get you can get all your turtles back. So it's kind of like,
Yeah,
okay.
and I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I had never seen that before.
I've always felt like the getting the turtles back was really, really hard because it's off of the
beaten path.
beaten path.
They always do
through
that, yeah.
the thing. But I mean, I guess it's your fault for letting the turtle die.
Yeah, it's also
You know?
worth it. I mean, it's basically an extra life.
Yeah.
What I mean, though, is that it's not completely unfair. If you get this rolled over by a steamroller, you can get that life back.
Yeah,
You
or
know?
just, you know, especially if it's in the beginning of the game, just reset it and just don't do that again. You know, that's the thing. Like you were saying, you learn. It's like, don't put your hand on a hot stove. You're gonna get burned. Same thing with this. Don't walk into the roller. Walk away from it. It's not like the thing chases you. It's just going in one path.
Yeah.
So you can just go over to the left and walk right past it and everything. And what's kind of cool too is you can attack on the overworld. And that was another thing I never knew for the longest time. I just avoided everything.
They attack.
I didn't know
on
you
the
could just
wall.
attack on there.
And one thing I have to say is that if you want to play this game, if you liked what we were talking about today, you should probably go out and get the game and play it, because there's probably not going to be many legal opportunities to play Turtles outside of the NES version. I don't remember it being released on many, if any, platforms outside
We did a video on the NES Classic, and, you know, we would say, you know, where's Ninja Turtles, where's Batman? But the problem is that they were licensed. But the other problem with that is sometimes they get the license, you know, for certain things.
Yeah.
That, you know, so it's like, you know, some of these great
Konami
games
had
should be
it
on there.
in 1989, but they don't have the license now. So then it would have to be, you know, okay, well, we can put Ninja Turtles on, but now we got to go talk to Nickelodeon now too, and then you got
It's probably
another
too much of a
person
pain in
to-
the
Yeah,
ass.
like
Yeah, I get that.
look at the Arcade 1-Up right now. Arcade 1-Up came out with the soundtrack. Yeah, it's right there, the box for it. Came out with the soundtrack changed because they couldn't get the rights to the music. It comes out, it has Nickelodeon on it now, which I don't mind. You know, they own it, whatever. But we're starting to see changes. We're starting to see the licensing being harder. We're starting to see everything not being in one piece. So right now, if you get it on an analog or an AVS or a regular Nintendo, you can play this game and have a really good time.
Yeah.
And you might not be able to in the future without doing it in an emulator or something like that.
Yeah, you know, and there's a lot of other, you know, old games that are like this, that share the same thing, that are like, a lot of times I'll be playing games. I have an EverDrive, so I'll go through and I'll play games briefly for just a minute or two, and I get in trouble because there might be a great game, and I pop it on for 2 seconds, and I'm like, I don't really like this.
You know, your game has to get people right away. It has to be very clear. It has to be very simple. It can't be, oh, you know, this takes some time investment. Because the vast majority of people aren't going to invest that time.
Like Kieran was saying, there's so many games now. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah,
like what, 60 games came out today or something like that.
right.
Today.
No, that's the
right?
thing.
So
I
you
mean,
better catch people right from the beginning.
You're not even going to play all the games that came out today, let alone...
Where back then, you know, like you're saying, you spend $60 for a game, you have to go to the store to get it. You got to get your parents to buy it for you, whatever. I mean, that was what it
And
was
in
like back
1989,
then.
there was probably less than 100 games really that you could pick up at the time, I think.
So I guess what we're trying to really say here is that, you know, give this game a chance. It has such a bad reputation.
Yeah, right.
And frankly,
Thanks
coming...
to you and James, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I wanted to make this video. Coming from this channel, Cinemassacre in particular, I'm not going to say the complete reason, but a big reason why this game is shit on is because of that video that we did. I mean, that video, frankly, I remember is the one that really popularized. The first 4 videos were like, people were watching them, but when that video came out, because it was Ninja Turtles.
Right.
Yeah.
That is the video that popularized the angry video game nerd. and it's really, you know, it's a comedy show.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a joke, and that's a funny video. I go back and I watch that, and I still think it's fucking funny to this day.
Yeah.
And there's some good points made in there, but we never wanted to. There's people still that will say, "Oh, that game sucks." They come up to us at conventions and say, "That game sucks," and I'm like, "No, it doesn't."
Yeah.
Like, part of me, I was like, "What have we done?"
Right.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. I mean,
Yeah.
for me to kind of like 20 years later or whatever, see somebody else talking about it, and this is a game that frustrated me as a kid. And I remember like going to a friend's house and everything, and then seeing like, oh wow, these guys are talking about it and like making fun of it. This is pretty funny.
Yeah.
But it does put it in
And that
your
was the
head.
point
like,
of it.
Yeah. It put it in my head where you know, I played the game again. I think it was on the Wii Virtual Console, like the original
really?
one. I think it was, because me and my friend played it, and that was about the time when he had the Wii. I remember we both played it, and we tried to get past the dam level, and we couldn't. And we played it because of the episode. Like, we wanted to see these parts, because I had never beaten the first level.
Well, if you would have known, just go find the scrolls. You can kind of blow your way through the entire game. You get to the Technodrome, you have the scrolls, you're going to fuck the Technodrome up. I want to give also sort of the reverse argument of this. Another game that had, actually, it had depth to it. They were really trying, was Ghostbusters on NES. But the difference is that game sucked then and it sucks now. It's always sucked.
Yeah.
But they did try. There was a lot of interesting things. It's not just them going around blasting things, and they could have easily done that. So they were trying to make it more interesting, but it was a failed attempt.
I think the problem with the Ghostbuster games too is like the first one, they tried to do too much for the technology that they just couldn't do.
Yeah.
And then the second one, they were like, oh yeah, we'll do a side scroller, and they made the most basic, boring side scroller. Like, it's just running from left to right.
Yeah.
That's it. Shooting slime and
the arcade, the real Ghostbusters one is also very basic. You're just blasting stuff.
Yeah.
So those are sort of like the dumbed down sort of versions of the Ghostbuster games. Another famous moment is when the Jaws of Life or whatever are coming together, and there's that pizza over there.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, how do you get that pizza? If you go for it, the thing's closing, you are going to die. There is no way to get that pizza. As far as I know, nobody on Earth has ever gotten that pizza. You can't get that fucking pizza. So it's like, isn't that bullshit? It's a funny thing to say, but like putting your hand to the stove again, it's like the first time you go in there, you try to get the pizza, you die. Do you do it the second time?
Yeah, no, you're not.
You don't do it the second time. Just try to make it.
If you think about it, maybe Shredder put that pizza there to kill the turtles.
Well, he's an ass.
He was like, oh, they'll go after this pizza.
Which is kind of the point of the game. Shredder's trying to kill the turtles. And then, so what they're teaching you there is, this is not an area to like be dicking around and getting items. You want to get through it really quick. Yeah. And there's that's what's so interesting about the game. You have swimming in a dam. You have driving around in a turtle van. You have like going to airports and dodging, bombs from the sky. There's so many different things.
Also cutscenes in the game, which with word bubbles, and they kind of look like comic book panels in a way. And that's actually really cool that there is story in the Ninja Turtles game. It's not just each level going through,
Speaking of cutscenes, one of the details I've never seen anybody mention, but so when you're on level 4, going around the sewers and all that, that's in the daytime. When you go to level 5, right before you get to the Technodrome, that's a night level. The cutscene, the transition in between, the turtles all get into the blimp, and then as you're getting in the blimp and leaving, the sun sets. You know, so they even like thought about that in the cutscenes. Like the cutscenes are cool.
Yeah, they are really neat.
There's continuity. Man, we learned a lot of life lessons on retail reviews this time.
Yeah, you changed my mind on this game completely. Like I went in completely negative towards this game and didn't want.
Now I'm gonna ask you a real question.
Okay.
So really, would you, because you care now, stream the game?
Yeah, I probably, honestly, watching you play it and showing me the ropes, I wanted to play it myself and get good at it. Because it is something that it's a game that I've always wanted to play and always wanted to have fun with, but never did. And now that I kind of saw how different, because that's one thing, I didn't know that the different turtles had, I would only switch when one got low on life. I didn't care about like, Raphael kills these faster. I just thought that each turtle kind of sucked except for their weapon, and I would, I would start off with Raph, then go to Michelangelo because they were the worst.
I wouldn't dwell on that point as much as getting the sub weapons.
Yeah, getting
the sub weapons is what's going to really get you through the game.
That's true too. Being able to, and that's something I mean, it takes a long time to find those sub weapons.
Yeah.
You don't find them right off the bat. So most of the time, I mean, if you're like me and you couldn't even beat the first level, I had a problem with Rocksteady when because I didn't know about the whole stand on a box and hit him until I saw the nerd episode. So all my life,
I think that's
me and my friends
Nintendo
are trying
Power.
to, like,
Actually,
is it okay? I didn't
think.
have Nintendo Power.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't have a.
I was
NES,
privileged.
Yeah, I played NES at friends' houses. That's how I played it. So this was always like, I went to my friend's house and we played it for a few hours and couldn't get anywhere and we kept dying, and that was how it always was for me.
I haven't gotten past the blimp. I haven't gotten past the night stage. So I mean, you've inspired me to take a look at it again, and hopefully I can beat it, because I think it would feel really good.
I'm glad that I was able to make you guys want to play the game. I hope that with this video, next time I go to a convention or something, people, I want you guys to find a way, play the game, and let's all get over the idea of this game sucking, because there's absolutely no way that this game sucks.
Yeah.
It's a really good game.
Yeah, I definitely learned a lot today. Don't put my hand on a hot stove.
Yeah.
Ninja Turtles is a good game. You can't get the pizza, and you just walk over. I mean, there's a lot.
Yeah.
No, there's
you can just walk over it.
There is a good layer of depth to this game,
It's
and
good.
You won't get it by watching. You should watch the Angry Nerds still. But if you base your opinions off somebody else's gameplay and their experiences of it without actually formulating your own opinion, you're not gonna like anything.
Laugh at the episode, play the game.
Yeah.
There you go. Thanks for watching.